just feel free to ask them throughout the course.
So I got a question for you guys. Sorry,
Are you allowed to do that?
Preempt. Can we do that? I don't know. So for me in the military, like everyone knows the word butt kissers, and like in the military, we as a culture, if the guy's trying to kiss butt, that's crushed, right? And it's just not rewarded, right? You do your job, you kind of stay in your lane, you really do well, you're a good team player, you get out. Okay, now we're out in the private sector. How well does that translate in your companies? And how much do you say I am going to be the CEO, and where is that respected or not? And how much self-promotion do you really have to do?
I'll talk from a small company perspective. You can fool some of the people some of the time, first of all. So some of the, brown-nosing kind of stuff, it works on some people. And so, I'll just be honest. If you go that way, it'll work on some of the people. Where it crosses the line in what you're talking about, Ben, and it doesn't work, is the I'm going to be the next leader in a small company. It really doesn't. It's too visible, and it just doesn't play. It doesn't play well. It makes people nervous. For the most part, everybody now this is small or large company, everybody I've seen promoted, really make their way up, has sort of been I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna make sure that my boss knows and that I get credit for the work that I do, but I'm not walking up and down the halls to my peers talking about how awesome I am.
I would say banking's a bit of a unique animal in the business that I'm in that when you're a junior banker, you're working on an equity raise or an IPO or an M&A transaction, and at least within Credit Suisse, we have very small teams that do this. So it's 3 or 4 people. So there's really no place to hide. So butt kissing is really not going to get you anywhere, because you either know how to do the math and know how to put things together, or you don't. And it's very quickly apparent to the other 3 people whether or not you know what you're doing. As you become more senior and you're more in sort of the relationship mode and building a business, people know very quickly you either make money or you don't. So in that way, I would say investment banking is very transparent. There's really no role for it at all, because you either succeed or you don't, and everybody knows. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting that at big honking companies we have a model. Difference between big companies and little companies. But I mean, obviously, butt kissing always bad, right? Butt kissing bad. But we have a model that says it's the PIE model, PIE, performance, image, and exposure. And candidly, one of the things that's important to your career success is kind of the entry to the game. The entry price of admission is performance. If you don't perform, image and exposure are kind of irrelevant, because your image will be that of a non-performer, and God forbid you actually get exposed as that. That's a bad thing, right? So you got to have the performance. But then the other piece is what's your image to others within the corporation, which is why brown nosing always bad, because if that's your image, that's not going to help you. But the image that people have of you is important, and the exposure, especially at larger companies, because candidly in a smaller company, I think the exposure kind of comes along for the ride. But in big honking companies, it's challenging sometimes to get the exposure to the right people. And one of the things that I always tell military audiences is, getting promoted is different in corporate America than it is, we don't have boards. It doesn't work that way. I cannot think of one person who ever got promoted without the hiring manager saying yes. So that hiring manager has to select you. That's how it works. And so how do you get the opportunity? Well, you have an image, you have some kind of an exposure to the right people, and obviously you had to have the performance to have the proper image and all that good stuff. Now, having said that, I'm actually, that's our official, stance, and I'm sticking to it. I'm a little different. The current role I'm in today, we post all of our jobs on an internal website on our intranet. I saw the job. I thought, wow, I would really, really enjoy that, and I would be awesome at it. And I clicked to apply, and it worked. So I had no image and no exposure with the people in corporate HR, because I was down in one of the business units, and I had an image and exposure in that business unit. But when I jumped functions and jumped to corporate headquarters, I left all that stuff in the dust because it didn't help me at all. So it is possible, but the higher percentage shot, for lack of a better term, is really that performance image and exposure model. So it's not brown nosing and it's not kissing up, but it's understanding how you are viewed and how others, especially those in important positions, view you, and that's important.
How's it play at Ben, at Google, Ben?
Curiosity.
Curiosity.
Yeah, it's very similar, and I think again that's one of the big takeaways I had in business school, but also especially at Google is you got to do some of that image management or brand management, for lack of a better term, and that's something that just never I ever saw in the military at all. It was summarily rejected, and that was my big. If I had to go back and do it again, it's not brown nosing. It's not or the way I envision it. It's just having impact, and being visible about it, and just making sure the right people know, and that's not that hard. And I think that's a sweet middle spot that I wish I would have been a little more aggressive in getting to, and that would be something maybe to take away.
Oh, that's a great point.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. As a